My name is Lawan. I'm 74 years old, and I need to tell you something tonight that took me most of my life to understand. Something that sounds almost too simple to be the answer to everything. Something that when I finally grasped it, not in my mind but in my bones, rearranged the entire structure of how I lived. For 60 years, I believed that peace was something you earned after everything else was handled, after the work was done, after the relationships were stable, after the finances were secure, after the children were settled, after the problems were solved, after life finally cooperated with my plans and gave me a moment to breathe. I believed peace was the reward at the end, the thing you got to feel once you had successfully managed every other thing. And so I kept putting it last. Every single day for 60 years, I put my peace last. And every single day for 60 years, I suffered for it. Not dramatically, quietly. The way a plant suffers when it doesn't get enough water, slowly, imperceptibly, until one day you look at it and realize it has been dying for a very long time. The truth I discovered, the one that changed everything, is almost embarrassingly simple. Your mental peace is not the reward that comes after you handle everything else. Your mental peace is the foundation that determines how you handle everything else. It is not last, it is first. It was always first. And the moment you stop treating it like something you'll get around to eventually, and start treating it like the most essential and non-negotiable requirement of your entire existence, everything changes. Not because the external circumstances of your life magically improve, but because you change. The way you meet your life changes. The way you make decisions changes. The way you relate to other people changes. The way you experience every ordinary moment of every ordinary day changes. And from that changed way of being, a different life becomes possible. Not a perfect life, but a real one. One that feels like yours. I want to tell you about the period in my life when I finally understood this, because it didn't come through wisdom or study or spiritual practice. It came through collapse. I was 58 years old. I had spent decades being the person who held everything together, the one everyone came to, the one who always had the answer, always had the energy, always had the capacity to take on one more thing. I wore this as a kind of identity. It made me feel necessary, valuable, like I was earning my right to be here by being useful to everyone around me. And I never asked what it was costing me. I never looked at the account that was being drained while I was busy filling everyone else's. Until one morning I woke up and simply could not move. Not physically, something deeper. Some essential resource had run completely dry. And I lay there staring at the ceiling with the strange calm of someone who has nothing left to fight with. And in that emptiness, in that forced stillness, something became clear that I had been too busy to see. I had been treating everyone and everything in my life as more important than my own inner state. And my inner state had quietly given up waiting to be tended to. This is what happens when peace goes last. It doesn't disappear dramatically, it erodes, slowly, silently. And you don't notice until the erosion has gone so deep that you're standing on nothing. Until the ground you've been building your life on has crumbled beneath you. And the terrible irony is that all the things you sacrificed your peace to maintain, the relationships, the work, the responsibilities, none of them actually benefited from your sacrifice. They suffered too. Because a person without inner peace cannot truly love, cannot truly create, cannot truly connect, cannot truly give. They can only perform, only function, only go through motions that increasingly feel like someone else's life. If something in what I'm saying is reaching you tonight, if you recognize your own life in any part of this, then what I want you to understand is that what happened to me doesn't have to happen to you. You don't have to wait for the collapse. You don't have to wait until there is nothing left before you decide that your peace matters. You can decide now, tonight, in this moment. And if these words have found you at a time when you needed them, I hope you'll stay close to this space. Return when you need reminding, because this is not a lesson you learn once. It's something you choose again and again, every day, against a world that constantly tries to convince you that everything else is more urgent. What I want to share with you now is not a theory. It's what I actually learned to do differently after that morning when I couldn't get out of bed. 3 real shifts that put peace back where it belongs. First, not last, in the center, not the margins. The first shift is this: stop treating your inner state as something you'll tend to when you have time. You will never have time. Time does not appear by itself. It is created by decision. And the decision to protect your mental peace is not a decision you make once in a grand gesture. It is a decision you make in the small moments. When you choose not to check your phone for the first 10 minutes of the morning. When you choose to pause before responding to something that provoked you. When you choose to step away from a conversation that is draining you without adding anything real. When you choose to sit in silence for 5 minutes instead of filling every gap with noise. These small choices accumulate. They are the practice of putting peace first, not as a concept, as a daily lived reality that happens in ordinary moments that no one else will even notice you're making. For most of my life, I did the opposite. I treated every external demand as more urgent than my internal state. Every notification, every request, every problem that appeared demanded my immediate attention. And my inner world waited and waited and waited until it stopped waiting and simply began to deteriorate. The shift happened when I understood that every external demand feels urgent, but very few of them actually are. And even the ones that genuinely require attention are better handled from a place of internal steadiness than from a place of inner chaos. Peace is not what you achieve after you respond to everything. Peace is what makes your responses worth having. The second shift is perhaps the hardest, because it requires you to disappoint people. Stop allowing other people's discomfort to override your own need for peace. This is something most of us were never taught. We were taught to accommodate, to adjust, to make ourselves smaller or quieter or more available so that the people around us could be comfortable. And this teaching was presented as kindness, as generosity, as what good people do. But there is a difference between genuine generosity, which comes from fullness and choice, and the kind of endless accommodation that comes from the belief that your own needs are less legitimate than everyone else's, that your discomfort can wait, but theirs cannot, that your peace is optional, but their comfort is essential. I spent 50 years operating from this belief without ever examining it, without ever asking where it came from or whether it was true. I simply assumed that the discomfort of others was my responsibility to fix, and that my own discomfort was mine to endure quietly. And the cost of this assumption was everything. It cost me the ability to set limits that protected my energy. It cost me relationships where I was genuinely present rather than just physically available. It cost me years of living in a low-grade state of resentment that I could never quite name because I had told myself I was choosing all of it. But you cannot sustainably give what you do not have. And you cannot have peace if you have agreed that your peace is the first thing that gets sacrificed every time someone else needs something. The third shift is the deepest one, and it is this. Understand that your mental peace is not selfish. It is the most generous thing you can offer the world. This sounds counterintuitive. We live in a culture that treats self-sacrifice as the highest virtue and self-care as indulgence. But think about what it actually means to be around someone who is at peace with themselves, someone who is not reactive, who is not desperate for approval, who is not functioning from a place of exhaustion and resentment. Someone who has enough inner steadiness that they can truly listen to you without immediately making your problem about themselves. Someone who can be present with you without secretly needing something from you. That is what a person who prioritizes their mental peace offers the world. Not less, more. So much more than the person who sacrifices everything and arrives empty, performing generosity they no longer have the resources to feel. I think about the years I gave my children a mother who was physically present but internally absent, who was there in the room but not really there, who went through the motions of love without the presence that makes love feel real. Not because I didn't love them, but because I had given away so much of myself to so many other things that there was nothing left that was truly mine to give. The mental peace I should have been protecting would have made me a better mother than all the sacrifice did. The boundaries I should have been maintaining would have left me with more genuine warmth than the endless availability that left me hollow. This is what I want you to hear, not as an idea, but as a lived truth from someone who learned it the hard way. When you protect your peace, you protect your capacity to love. When you maintain your inner stillness, you maintain your ability to be genuinely present for the people who matter to you. When you put your mental health first, you do not take something from your life. You give everything in your life a better foundation. Peace is not passive. It is not the absence of engagement with life. It is the quality of presence you bring to your engagement. The difference between moving through your day from a place of inner steadiness and moving through it from a place of inner chaos is the difference between building on solid ground and building on sand. Everything you construct from peace is more durable, more real, more genuinely yours. Everything you construct from anxiety and depletion can collapse at any moment because it was never built on anything stable. After that morning when I couldn't get out of bed, I made a decision. Not dramatically, not with grand declarations, quietly. I decided that my peace would come first. Not because I had stopped caring about others, but because I finally understood that my peace was not something I could afford to sacrifice and still have anything real left to offer. I started small. 5 minutes of silence in the morning before anything else was allowed in. A single moment of checking my inner state before responding to external demands. One honest conversation where I said I can't right now instead of pushing through when I had nothing left. These small acts felt almost ridiculous at first, too small to matter. But they mattered. They accumulated. They became the practice that rebuilt the ground I had let erode. And something unexpected happened. The people in my life did not suffer from my new priorities. They benefited because I was more present, more patient, more genuinely available in the ways that actually count than I had been when I was physically available all the time, but internally gone. The work I did was better. The decisions I made were clearer. The relationships I maintained were more honest. Everything that I thought required my sacrifice actually required my presence. And presence requires peace. Real, protected, non-negotiable inner peace that you choose every day before you choose anything else. My name is Lawan. I'm 74 years old. I live in a small temple where the mornings are silent and the trees do not apologize for needing sunlight. They simply turn toward it, without guilt, without asking permission, without checking whether everyone around them is comfortable with their need for light. They just turn and grow and give back to the world from their fullness rather than their depletion. That is what I learned to do. That is what I want you to learn. Not after everything else is handled. Now, tonight, with the next small decision you make about what comes first. Before we part, I want to ask you something real. What have you been putting before your peace? What have you been telling yourself has to come first before you get to tend to what is happening inside you? Tell me in the comments. not because I need to know, but because naming it is often the first step toward changing it. And if this message found you at a moment when something in you was ready to hear it, then let that readiness be the beginning. Because the life that becomes possible when your peace comes first is not a smaller life. It is the fullest life you have ever lived, and it is waiting for you right now, on the other side of the decision to finally put yourself first.